We're really honored to give the floor now to the U.S. Assistant Secretary for Global Affairs, Loyce Pace, from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. Loyce is here to represent, as we've said, the United States is the host of the Global Fund Replenishment this year. So thanks so much, Loyce, for being here. And it's so good to see you.
I had to get that in. It's been too long. I haven't even seen those babies. This is beautiful. Goodness, I can't even stay, and I'm feeling like I need to move my other appointment. But I'm glad to be here with you right now. I just want to honor our distinguished delegates and thank you for your opening remarks, including those of course, the Honorable President Kenyatta, just because we have to start with the leadership that we have seen come through time and time again. Thank you so much for showing us how it's done, frankly. I also want to acknowledge colleagues, friends. Again, as you said, ma'am, it is really great to be together for once in a very long time, and also acknowledge the co-hosts beyond those who are on stage. I know that there's a lot of work that goes into this behind the scenes. We've been hearing, though, from speakers already how important this issue is. It's obviously very important to the U.S. government. I know everyone's been focused on COVID, as my boss has said, over the past couple of years, and yet malaria and other diseases have been with us for far too long. So let's absolutely keep up the fight. I am here not alone, but joined by colleagues from the Centers for Disease Control at our Department of Health and Human Services, as well as from USAID and our President's Malaria Initiative, and finally, of course, last but not least, Dr. Anjali Atrikar, who's here representing our Office of the Global AIDS Coordinator. So hopefully that is really showing to you all that we are here as a very united front and working towards a malaria-free world. So speaking of malaria, over the past 2 decades, we've really seen this campaign to end malaria emerge as one of the greatest successes that we could celebrate. And despite the leveling off of that progress in recent years, I do think it's important to remember how far we've come. More than 10.6 million lives saved and $2 trillion in economic benefits delivered for malaria-affected countries. I think we deserve to give that a round of applause. Exactly. We can't say that every day. So whether we're talking about, again, the governments that I've acknowledged and the work and partnership that you all have done, or our bilateral efforts such as through PMI, I think we can all really appreciate the role that we've played in this important turning point. And yet, we do still have work to do, especially when we look at the past 5 years, and we don't want to come together and be lamenting the fact that we continue to lose ground. We know how to get this done. We have the promise of something like the groundbreaking malaria vaccine. And I remember in my time outside of government how excited we were for that to come into being. We know it's not a magic pill, right? We know it's not a cure-all, and we know it has to be sort of associated or combined with other really important tried and true interventions, and yet that is yet another signal of our collective progress. And so kudos to the Kenyan scientists who worked towards that end. Yes, please give them a round of applause. I also want to acknowledge our scientists at our National Institutes of Health who also have been working behind the scenes with regional partners to realize that and other advancements. And speaking of those other advancements, again, we know that this is something we have to stay on top of, and it's not just about new innovations, but the evolution of existing ones, right? Whether it's around repellents or diagnostics or other drugs, this virus is tricky. We've seen it with COVID, and as you said, sir, we've figured out how to do this with COVID. Suddenly, we moved at breakneck speed, and why not for malaria too? And so just know that our scientists here and our many experts working with you are prepared to ensure that we stay on top of this and bring our brightest and best to the fore. The last thing I'll say is to harp on what I know we're here to celebrate as well, the Global Fund celebrating 20 years this year, which is really quite fantastic, especially given the progress it's made. We're proud here in the U.S. to fund its 7th replenishment, and I hope that you have seen our deep commitment come through already in our own pledge. I know that many of you were very grateful for the President's budget and his pledge of $2 billion therein. That's a signal that we wanted to send. Thank you very much. to our partners as well. And I appreciate the call to African leadership. I also want to acknowledge the leadership of those governments in the launch of our replenishment cycle. And yet, it is my turn to issue a call to G7 donors, to the European Commission, those who need to help us reach this goal of at least $18 billion. And to do so by providing at least a 30% increase to their set 6 replenishment pledges. So know that that has been said, know that that marker has been laid in the sand, and I am committed on behalf of your USG to help us all get there. Of course. So finally, if this replenishment target is in fact met, and we will meet this target, we know that then we can reduce cases of malaria, deaths by malaria by 2/3. We can eliminate malaria from at least 6 countries by 2026. That is a big deal, and we know that the 7th replenishment cycle can help us contribute to saving 20 million lives in the fight against HIV, AIDS, TB, and malaria, and support the Global Fund's efforts to reinforce health systems, prevent pandemics, and address human rights and gender-related barriers to accessing services, because let's remember this work has to be rooted in equity if we do nothing else. So with that, I just want to thank you again for having me today, with sincere apologies that I cannot enjoy this venue with you much longer, but know that we are committed to our cause, our collective cause in zero malaria, in finishing the fight, and absolutely fighting for what counts, not only for malaria, but in an effort to improve health for all, not only in Africa, but worldwide. Thank you again.